Yes, people, welcome back to the Lily White Lab. And today is one of my most anticipated videos, I feel. I've been talking about it for a while. Well, I've basically made a spreadsheet on all the midfielders around Europe who could potentially really help fix Tottenham's midfield. That's been a real issue for a long time. I've been on record to say that I think Spurs really lack technicians in midfield, especially passers in midfield, but also players that can take it on the half turn from the back line. I think the progression in midfield is really poor. I think that's a huge issue of Spurs. Partly made worse by I think Thomas Frank's strategy, but I think the profiles in there are really not good. I think the midfield has been a mess for a long time at Spurs. And so, to be honest, I think we need two. I think we need two midfielders in the next two transfer windows. Maybe you go one kind of on the younger side, and then one guaranteed ready-made hit player. And so I've compiled a bit of a list where I've gone through, I've analysed them all on certain criteria, not statistically, so this is all subjective, it's off the eye test. It's obviously not gospel, like it's just a bit of fun. So when you see some of the ratings that you maybe don't agree with, it's just my opinion. And also some of the players I've had more access to watch a lot more of. Some of them I haven't been able to watch as much as I'd like to get a judgment, but obviously it's just a bit of fun. So hopefully you enjoy it. Before I get into the spreadsheet that I've made, please do make sure you're subscribed. Please share this video, like it, comment down below who you would want in your midfield. Also comment any questions you have on any of these players, because I feel like I've watched a lot of them extensively now. I have a really good read on a lot of these players now. And the way I'm going to kind of structure this video is I've hidden five players on this spreadsheet that I'm going to talk about in more detail. Now, you could call this my top five options, although I don't necessarily see it that way. I've just gone for five interesting options that I want to discuss further. I've left out certain players, like your obvious ones that people might already know about, who are good options, but I just thought I would kind of not analyze them in depth because people probably already know about those players. And then a couple of players that I haven't necessarily had the chance to properly analyze, who I've put on there but I haven't rated them, so I just quickly discuss them. And then one player who has been heavily analysed by Nathan from the Extra Inch. I didn't want to kind of talk about him in depth because I feel like that's already been done in the Spurs space, but again, there's another option. So without further ado, let's just get into the spreadsheet. So there's a lot of information on here. I've blacked out all the players so far. I'm going to get into names in a minute, but just let me take you through the parameters that I spoke on, so that you don't get distracted by the names and the numbers straight away. So obviously you got the name, the age, the estimated price. The estimated price, I've kind of gone off Transfermarkt, which is a very good website. I've actually done a little bit of work for them, so go check that out on their TikTok. But yeah, they have a most accurate kind of valuation of players, but I think it's always a bit undervalued. So I've upped it a little bit for kind of just off my guessing. Again, not gospel, just kind of rough estimate of a price. And then I've got like the primary attributes that I think we need, which are all kind of on the ball stuff, because I think obviously we have a lot of players who are good off the ball, some more than others, but I think that should be secondary. I think the player we want to bring in is someone who's very technical on the ball and can provide a lot of good stuff in possession. So I've got the primary attributes in green, which are ability on the half turn. So that is kind of receiving off the back line, being able to turn under pressure, and then be able to get us playing. You know, Moussa Dembele, the master of this. Bissouma at his best, very, very good at this. Players who don't struggle under pressure, play it on their back, they can easily get out of that and then get us playing. Tempo controlling. Now, this one's pretty difficult to always judge off kind of a small sample size of clips, but it's the way that they can take the sting out of the game at times, but then know when to up the tempo and up the intensity. It's a lot of the kind of mental attributes, I think, and knowing how to manage a game and control a game from midfield, and doing that and kind of using different speeds and different intensities throughout the game, particularly related to game state. Again, this is quite a difficult one to judge, so I've gone off my gut here. But yeah, that's one. Line breakers, line breaking passing, being able to thread passes through small gaps in between players. Pretty self-explanatory, that one. Romero from centre-back is the master of this, but we need, I think, a player who can do this in midfield. Switch of play, again, pretty self-explanatory. How good and reliable is their ability to switch the ball from one side to the other. Really important attribute to be able to move the opposition block around and open up gaps for yourself. And technical security. Now, this, I don't know if that's necessarily the right word for it, or right wording. This is like, how reliable are they in possession? How many times are they going to lose the ball when they shouldn't really lose it, or how reliable are they in possession and keeping it, basically? And you want to combine, obviously, being really progressive and taking risks, but also being really secure on the ball. The best players are able to do both. So I think about Pedri, for example, who I think is the best midfielder in the world. He never loses the ball, but he's also very risky and progresses the ball. So just technical security, like how well do they protect the ball? How clean are their touches? Are they going to have like a bad touch at this point? Or are they going to go 90 minutes with never having a bad touch or a misplaced pass? So just kind of the security that you get from them in possession. Then we've got the secondary attributes, intelligence out of possession. This is like, how well do they fill gaps? How well do they kind of make decisions off the ball? Do they go charging out and leave gaps? Do they manage their space as well? All that kind of thing. And then you've got physicality, which obviously is pretty self-explanatory. How well built are they? How kind of good are they and entering duels and stuff like that? And then athleticism. How well do they cover ground? Sorry, excuse me, I got a cough. How well do they cover ground? I think in the Premier League, those two things, all of those things, I think are going to be very important for this player. Obviously, for me, they're secondary attributes because we have a lot of that in the squad. And then I did scalability and attainability. So scalability, how well do I see their game translating to the Premier League? Again, pure guessing work. A lot of this is opinion. Like I said, I haven't used data here, so a lot of this is just going off my gut. Which is why I said it's a bit of fun. I'm not a professional scout or anything like that. Attainability, how likely is it that we can get these guys at the club? And then I averaged all the primary attributes. I averaged the secondary attributes. And then I added some little extras. So there's a bit more context around them. Like I said, I've hidden the top five the five that I want to talk about. So I'm going to kind of just hover over certain players first, and then we'll go into the 5 players I want to talk about. So without further ado, right. And so I'm literally going to go down the list and just talk, basically, until we get to the top 5, and then I'll speak about them on the tactics board. So Elliot Anderson. I think Elliot Anderson is a fantastic option. I think he can pretty much do a bit of everything. He's the kind of player you slot into a midfield and he just raises the level of your team. I think he is just very complete. I think he can play as an 8. I think he can play as a 6. I think he could probably play as a 10. I think he is just so well-rounded. He's been unbelievable this season. Just a top player, really. I think people often compare him and Wharton, and obviously you got Wharton down here. This is not, by the way, this is not an order of anything. This is completely a random order, so don't think this is ranking or anything. So I think with Elliot Anderson, I think he's more of a floor raiser. He's guaranteed to increase your level. I think Adam Wharton's more of a ceiling raiser. I think Adam Wharton has a certain ability that maybe Anderson doesn't, but Anderson physically, out of possession, combined with his quality on the ball, is just a guaranteed hit for me. I think the only thing that Anderson might struggle with is the tempo controlling side of things. I think he's quite an intense player who wants to constantly try things, play at one pace. I don't see him often slowing the game down, and this might be something that he develops. And I think a lot of players in midfield do develop this over time. It's about experience, understanding game state, stuff like that. But I think that is the one kind of slight I have on his game, I'd say. Technical security as well. I think, obviously, I've given that a 3. This is all out of 5, by the way. I think, again, I don't think he's very good ball striker. ability to switch play, really good at that kind of stuff. I don't see him as a very secure player on the ball. I think under pressure, he's not the most like beautiful at weaving in and out of challenge, but he's very secure there. I'm very solid there, sorry. And then out of possession, he's really, really strong. Give him 4s all round. Scalability, obviously, give him a 5. Attainability, I gave a 2 because I think he's going to go somewhere higher than us, which is part of the reason I didn't include him in the 5, but also because everyone knows about Elliot Anderson. Let's talk about Adam Wharton. Wharton, one of the best line breakers, I think, in the world. The ability to thread passes through the lines is so good. He is extremely direct. This is something I think people have spoken about quite a lot recently, that he is not a controller of games, and that is because he's constantly trying to move the ball forward. Now, this could be instructional. He plays for quite a transitional team in Glasgow. Would he be able to develop those traits? I think quite possibly. He's a very smart footballer. His ability to constantly know what's around him is so good. His ability on the half turn, always so clean. He is just such an intelligent footballer. So I do see that kind of coming for him, but at the moment he's a very direct player, and so that might be a risk that you bring. And again, that still improves Spurs. I'm just talking about him as a player because ideally you'd have the most complete possible midfielder coming in, obviously. So really, really good line breaker, but yeah, those concerns are there. Again, didn't include it. He'd be an unbelievable choice. Again, didn't include him in the 5 because people know about Wharton. I also think that he's probably going to be moving to a team above us. I've even seen the likes of Real Madrid interested in him. So, yeah, that's Wharton. A couple other players I want to speak about, just who often get spoken about in the fan base. I think Leon Advulahu is the one that I spoke about. Nathan has already kind of done a very good analysis of him if you are subscribed to The Extra Inch. So that is one thing you can check out. Who else do I want to discuss? João Gomez, excellent player. Just I don't think it's what we need. People have suggested him. He is more of a number 8 for sure. He wants to be busy all the time, getting around. He's more of a carrier than a passer. We've got a lot of carriers. Very good out of possession. Like just a really, really good player, but not quite what we need. Alex Scott is a very interesting one. Again, a really hard player to kind of evaluate because Iraola ball is chaos, pure chaos. And to be honest, whenever he gets the ball, he just clips it into the channels, and that is their way of playing. Really hard to get a read on him. Very technically good, obviously. But again, I think more of a carrier, more similar to what we have in the likes of Bergvall. So I don't think he's the answer, especially with the kind of fee that you'd be paying for a Premier League proven player. I just don't, and I know he's a Spurs fan, and I'm a really big fan of him as a player, but I just think this is not the right profile. Stiller is one that has constantly come up, just always comes up really in these conversations. Now, I was quite high on Stiller, and I watched a lot more of him. I just don't think, I think he's very talented technically, but he like the way there's just slight inconsistencies and unrefinement in his technical game. I feel like sometimes he underhits passes, sometimes he bobbles passes, and he's very good technically, so I don't know what that's about. I just don't love the way he passes the ball necessarily. I just don't think it's as clean and crisp as it should be. And then there's the physical concerns, which I think are massive. And if you're that kind of secondary physically, your technical game has to be top every time. And I just don't see that with him. I think his line breakers are unbelievable, similar to Wharton. But there are some technical inconsistencies there. There's occasional missed touch. There's the occasional underhit, overhit pass. And I think if you're going to gamble on a player who lacks physically, those things have to be at a certain level. And for me, I don't see them as at that level. So that's why I've gone anti him. I think especially with someone like him, you'd have to pair him with a really good, strong player. And yeah, I just don't think it's worth the gamble. Now, I think Andre is a really interesting one. He is obviously the partner of João Gomez at Wolves, but I think Andre suits what Spurs want to do a lot more. His technical game is very, very clean. He's able to punch the ball through the lines consistently. He's very good in tight spaces. He's smart on the ball. Very just technical, I think, deep line playmaker. I think the only kind of lacking part of his game is the long passing. I think his short, sharp passing is really good. I don't rate his kind of switches as highly. But again, like I said with Stiller, I think the physical concerns mean that if you sign a player who's physically lacking, their technical game has to be 10 out of 10 every single time. They have to be complete in that to survive in the Premier League and for it to be worth it. And I think Andre tries to overcompensate for his lack of physicality with some bad decisions sometimes, where he goes charging out, leaves gaps, etc., etc. And then obviously he's 5'6" or something like that. So physically it's going to be a concern. And while I think he massively improves us, and he's actually quite high in, if I was going to order these, I think he'd be quite high. I don't necessarily think, I think there's better options out there. Let's put it like that. Hayden Hackney, another good option. I think he probably could definitely improve our midfield. I think he's a number 8 though. I think he wants to be involved in the final third too much. And not that he's set as a number 8, but I haven't seen enough evidence of him dictating games. I think that's because of his quality at that level. They want him closer to goal, creating things and stuff like that. For me, a gamble. For sure, maybe a gamble worth taking. I think he ranks very high in data, people say. But probably better options out there. I wouldn't be against it though. Didn't rate him properly because I ran out of time, so I'm just going off what I've seen. Agume, I think, is a player that I've suggested. People have suggested watch more of him, and he, I think, is a player that would struggle under the proper pressing nature of the Premier League. He's very top heavy. He's very big. And so of a certain level, I think you see some of those progressive passes that are really, really nice. He's very defensively strong as well. I think under more pressure, he'd struggle to get those passes off without having the time to do so. Very, very big guy. This is such a niche comparison, but I remember one of the first youth tournaments I ever watched was Euro under 21s, maybe in 2015. I would have been 15. And I remember William Carvalho, who was a Portuguese midfielder, really dominating that level. And I thought, oh my God, this guy's going to be the next best midfielder in the world. He actually was with Bernardo Silva in that team. He was dominating, but he didn't really move, but everything went through him. And I think that level was too easy for him. But then once he made the step up to senior football, he wasn't able to kind of translate it because of those issues that are similar to Agume. So I think that's another interesting one. The last person I want to talk about is Lamine Camara. A really beautiful footballer, but plays very risky, wants to constantly create things and doesn't have the security that I think you require in the Premier League to play in that deep midfield role. Constantly wants to break lines, which he's absolutely brilliant at, but it's so risky all the time. He tries things all the time from those deep midfield areas where I probably want someone like him further forward. I wouldn't trust him enough on the ball in really high jeopardy situations. Top player. Would love to watch him at Spurs. I think he's really entertaining. But yeah, I think too risky. He's in theory it's nice, but in practice it might be quite worrying to watch. But one of the best passers on this list, his passing ability is unbelievable. That kind of rounds off these guys. I haven't touched on all of them. You guys can speak about. You guys can ask about any of the others in the comments. So let's get into the 5 players I want to kind of talk about in more detail. The first one is someone that Spurs have been linked to, a young player, so not the finished article, but that is Kees Schmidt of AZ Alkmaar. He is a superstar in waiting, in my opinion. The only kind of concerns I have with him is that he's played a lot further forward, but I think he's so complete that he's kind of able to do it all. People have compared it to De Bruyne at times in terms of the way he picks up that half space and his ability to kind of cross it from that half space. So that's obviously not the right profile. But I think recently I've seen a lot more of him playing kind of more of a dictating, controlling role. And I think he has the abilities to do it. And I see similarities to Pedri with Schmidt. Is his ability to constantly scan is so good. His technical ability is so clean. He constantly knows what's around him. He can buzz around. He can get the ball in all kind of different areas. I think he has the athleticism to match what we're looking for. But it's the constant scanning that I think is so important for a player of this position. So when he receives it off the back line, he constantly knows what's behind him. And then that first touch will always take him away from the defender. And then he's open to play in his space. And I think he's so good at that. He's able to receive the ball in all kinds of ways. His touch on both feet, no real angle bias, so can receive it out here and turn this way, but can also do the same and turn infield. Like, just such a good footballer, really Dutch kind of player. There's similarities to Pedri, but also similarities to Frenkie de Jong, obviously another Dutch player. I just really like him. I know he's played a lot more as an 8 and a 10 at times, but I do think he could do a lot of what Spurs are missing. But with him, Eredivisie, so big step up, young player, and hasn't done the role before. This would be a project type signing. And obviously we've got projects in midfield. I think none of them are quite like Schmidt, Bergvall, Gray, Sarr. I don't think any of them can do that controlling role yet. I think Keith Schmidt is so secure on the ball, where those guys really aren't. I think his technical level is probably higher than all of theirs. Of just an insane footballer. I think Bergvall could probably match him technically, but has those inconsistencies to his game. I don't think Schmidt has that. I think he's a very secure player with a lot of progression in him. Out of possession, probably some concerns. I think he charges about a bit too much. Very high energy young player. This is one that I'd like to see brought in with a more senior one. I don't think this is the player you can rely on to guarantee an increase in the level of the team, but just wanted to talk about him because I think you guys need to check him out. I'm just a huge fan of him. I think he's going to the top. So yeah, just wanted to mention him first. Now, Locatelli, a very interesting one. This is one that always gets suggested, has been suggested for years. I put a tweet out because after watching him, I think he massively improves us, but in very different ways to what some of the others that I'm going to talk about do. Now, Locatelli is of the perfect age profile. Of course, he's played senior football for a long time. He's 27. He's played for Juventus. He's played at the high level, internationally, etc. So what I kind of said in that tweet and what I kind of think about Locatelli is, I don't think there's necessarily a right way of ball progression necessarily. I think he's more of a block mover than a block penetrator. And what I mean by that is, one thing he loves to do is drop into this back line and receive it here. He has, in the whole list, got 100% the best switch of play. Like, his ability to pass like this is insane. And having that in the team is a bit of a cheat code. You can move teams around so well. His ability to just, on the money every single time. The Pirlo-esque passing from him is really good. And what I mean by block mover is, let's say he gets the ball in midfield. I think because he's quite like, I don't want to say clunky because that sounds negative. He's just quite a big guy who's not really smooth passer, but not very intricate, is what I mean. So when it becomes very tight, I don't see him like playing through the lines, these sorts of passes, like really sharp. He's more of like a slow, controlled player. Now, obviously, if he gets time on the ball, I think he can 100% play those passes. I think when it's a bit chaotic in here, he's not someone who's going to suddenly just slide a pass through. I think he likes to take a lot of time with the ball. I think his ability to slow the game down is something that Spurs have been missing for years. And I really like the idea of having someone that puts their foot on the ball and can spray passes. And that is more what he is. I think he's a block mover, not a block penetrator. I like someone who can come deep, put their foot on the ball and actually start to slow things down and run the game. And I do really like the idea of Locatelli. I think physically and athletically, I worry about the translation. I think you'd see really good things. I think he might struggle in transitions, and also maybe struggle being pressed. I can imagine him doing a little bit too much of what Bentancur does, where he gets the ball in this sort of area and is worried about his ability to get out of pressure and so just bounces it back. Now, not a problem to do that, but doing that every time, I want to see something a bit more high risk. I think Frank would probably prefer someone like this, who is probably smart and then knows when and won't take those risks necessarily to turn out of pressure here. And And then when we do get a bit of settled play, is able to kind of drop deep, and now we can get on the ball and turn on it with more time and start dictating. So I think that's the Locatelli profile for me. Definitely improves us. Probably not my stylistic choice, but then again, I'm a high risk type football person, so I want someone a bit more risky, I'd say. So that's Locatelli. Chema Andrés is kind of, I think now I'm into my guaranteed top three away from the obvious ones like Wharton and Anderson. These are my three that I'd put up there. Now let me talk about the concerns with Chema Andrés first. This is his first proper senior season, and he hasn't even played loads of minutes for Stuttgart. He has. He's played a lot of minutes for Stuttgart, but he's been kind of in and out. They've rotated pretty well. They're in Europe, so he's not played every single game. He is Real Madrid Academy, so there's already talks about Real Madrid potentially buying him back. And I think he's everything that Real Madrid miss. He, for me, reminds me so much of Rodri. Just so intelligent. Every action is clean. He has the similar build to Rodri, like quite tall, quite big. But his touch and his passing ability is just always on point. He is someone that just dictates the game. He plays with that commanding nature that Rodri has, and he dominates midfields when he plays. He looks like he's one of those players who wants to just get on the ball and control it. His disguise on his passes is something that I love so much. So like I always talk about it, he might look to kind of shape up as if he's playing there and then play through the lines there. I think disguise is so important for this role. He is just excellent. Now, just like Rodri, he never looks rushed. He's never phased by pressure. He's never phased by the pass that he has to do. He just gets on with it and just does it so easily. Football just looks easy for him. And that goes out of possession as well. He's a bit of a unit, but he just never looks like he's getting out of second gear, and he just cleans up everything. I just think he's so much like Rodri. Just a really, really good option. But those lack of first team minutes under his belt might put the club off. He's another young player, but I do think he's first team ready. But you probably want to wait for him to see the season out. Like I said, this is an important role to fill. He's very young still. But if you haven't watched him, please go and watch him. Just a great option. I really like what he's going to become. I think in terms of profile, what we're looking for, he does everything we need. I think the only kind of, I guess, I wouldn't call it a weakness. It's just a trait. Is that he's not someone who, because he's quite a big frame, he's not someone who's probably going to want to get the ball off the centre backs and turn out of pressure. He's more someone that will want to face play. So he definitely can do that. He's good enough to do it. He's got the footwork, but I think he's someone who will more want to get the ball in the angle, bit more on the half turn, because I think sometimes this is like you're on the full turn, you're literally facing play. Can you get out of pressure there? This, he'll create more of an angle, probably turn up there and then be able to play. But just an excellent choice. Really like him. So number 2 on my list, I guess, you can call it number 2, is Alex Garcia of Leverkusen. Now, there was a lot of hype around him at Girona. He's formerly of Manchester City, a Spanish midfielder who sums up what it means to be Spanish. I think he is absolutely excellent. If you're looking for a passer, you couldn't get much better than Alex Garcia. And when I say passer, the other guys we've kind of spoken about have got certain types of passes in their locker. I think Alex Garcia has every single pass in his locker. He's got the long switch off both feet. He's got the ability to pass in the eye of the needle. He's got creative ability if he was ever to get licensed to go and do that, but he's also got free kick ability, both crossing and shooting. He has just got an absolute beautiful strike on him in terms of all aspects. Very tidy, brilliant at receiving in all areas of the pitch, really. Tempo controller for sure, knows when to slow the game down, wants to be the hub of the team, which I really like in this kind of profile. My concerns with Alex Garcia are, I think, out of possession. You are going to need to pair him up with an athlete. Now, that could be Sarr, it could be Gray, if Gray wants to kind of turn into that. I just think with Garcia, you have to be very careful with who you pair him with. Where there's other players on this list, I think you can pair two of them together in midfield and you'd be fine. I think with Garcia, the secondary profile has to be someone who's very good out of possession, which is fine. Like that is okay if he gives you that much upside in possession, which I think he does. That is more than fair. But just something to note about Alex Garcia. But I think he's in the prime age. Perfectly what we're missing, just an absolute beautiful passer. I think it's a no-brainer, won't cost that much. It's something that you could probably get done in January and would immediately improve our level and provide something we don't have in the team. And my number one undisputed choice for this, which is a bit of a weird one because I think it's a bit contradictory of what I think, but he's so good in every aspect. What I mean by that is that I think there's been so much talk about Spurs need passers, and this guy is a very good passer, but there's better passers on this list, I think. But what Manu Koné offers in all other aspects is just the complete midfielder. Like, imagine Moussa Dembele with passing ability. That's what I see as him. He is just unbelievable. I just think he's such a good player. I think he takes us up a level. You just plunk him in and he can do pretty much everything you need from that position. The ability to take it on the turn from the back line, the best I think on the list. Just physically strong, beautiful footwork, quick over those first few yards to accelerate once he's kind of gotten away from his marker. But so elegant, such a just beautiful footballer. Don't necessarily think that he's a tempo controller. But I don't think that matters. I just think you can run everything through him and he can just... I just fallen in love with this player, really. I don't think he has the kind of tempo controlling that you look like Locatelli has, some sense. But everywhere, and I think that's okay. You can get tempo control from anyone on your team. And you can pair him with someone who can maybe do that more. But I just think his ability under pressure, just massive tick. Line breaking passing, tick. Switch of play, very good. Technical security, and that's the one thing I want to just really highlight with Manu Koné. Give him the ball in any circumstances, he's not losing it, he's progressing it. And that's just like off the back four, in a tight area by the flank, anywhere on the pitch, you can give him the ball and you know you're not losing it. And that is the Moussa Dembele type player. I do think, obviously, Moussa Dembele was more of a carrier. Manu Koné is a carrier, but his passing is very, very good. And out of possession, he's brilliant as well. He can cover ground so well. He's strong. He's calm and composed in high-risk situations. He's everything I look for in a midfielder. One thing I love about Manu Koné is how he'll take quite a slow touch intentionally, or a bit of a loose touch even intentionally, to put it a bit away from the opponent, almost teasing them in, and then just beats them. Either shifts them with his arm, or nice footwork away from them, and then takes players out of the game. And that's what he's so good at, taking that first line of pressure out the game, and that opens the pitch up. And that's what we've been missing so much, is beating that first line, getting through that first line, and then being able to play. And I think Manu Koné does that to a just perfect level. I think he's unbelievable. I would love to get a Manu Koné and an Alex Garcia in midfield. I think that pairing would just be beautiful, because you've got a top passer, you've got a very good passer in Manu Koné, you've got the steel and the physicality in Manu Koné, but you've also got the beautiful footwork. If you paired those two, that's just a crazy good midfield, I think. But Manu Koné, I think, improves us so much just for the ability to take it off the back line and get us playing. You can trust him in those situations constantly. His passing is clean. Just, perfect player for me in terms of what we need. And like I said, I think you get, he's a very good passer. I don't necessarily think that every team has an elite passer nowadays. I think we need good passers in the team more across the pitch. He definitely adds to that. He's a good passer. I don't think you need a kind of Andrea Pirlo in your team necessarily. You just need more good passers, and that's what we're lacking. Manu Koné can certainly punch the ball through the lines, can certainly switch play to a very good level, and his dribbling ability and ability under pressure is 10 out of 10. So he would be my number one choice. But I'd love to get him in with an elite passer. If you've got like a Manu Koné and Locatelli, or a Manu Koné and Alex Garcia, or even like a Manu Koné and a Chema Andrés, there's so many pairings you could do. I just think let's get two of these guys on this list, even a Schmidt and a Manu Koné. Basically, what I'm saying is get Manu Koné and someone else. But that's kind of it rounded up. I'm sure I've missed a lot of points. Like there was so much to go through that I kind of probably skimmed over things, missed details. I know I used the tactics board on some players and didn't use it on other players. It's like my head's a bit all over the place. But I hope you enjoyed that. So many like more points I'm sure to discuss. So if you want to comment any questions on any of these players, please do. If you want to suggest any other players I've missed, I know I've missed players. I didn't have the time to cover every single midfielder in the world. But yeah, that's it. Just a bit of fun. Obviously, Spurs will not listen to me. I haven't scouted these players with data. I haven't scouted them by watching 10 90-minute matches of them. I've watched a few of some of them. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully that provides some insight and some potential options. I will do this kind of whole process again with another position. I'm thinking left back or left wing next. So also comment down below what you'd like to see next out of those two, like a left back version of this or a left wing version. But yeah, thanks for watching and come on you Spurs.